Alright, welcome back to Dream Talk. I'm your host, Brian Ladd. Today is Monday, March 8th, 2010, 10:21 p.m. We have one case to discuss tonight, and that is case number 857, Sheena Lee Morris. The case was opened on March 4th of 2010. We have Deborah with us, and Deborah's going to introduce the guest tonight. Deborah, are you there?
I'm here, Brian. How are you tonight?
Fine. Thank you for putting this together, and I'm just going to go ahead and turn it over to you. And then when you're ready for me, I'll go ahead and go with the dream drawings that I had and the ones that were done last night. And then, of course, we have Gail St. John on, too. So, go ahead, Deborah.
You're quite welcome. Happy to do what I can to help. Okay, so tonight we have, as you said, we also have Gail St. John on, Psychic Gail St. John on. She's going to work on Sheena's case live. We have Sheena's mom on here. Her name is Kelly, and she'll be telling you about Sheena's story. We're going to start off by having Gail work on Sheena's case live. And that's where we start. I have provided Gail with a photograph. And is there something more that you're needing, Gail?
I'd just like to hear just a little bit, background, just, give me her full name, birthday, just kind of get me rolling here.
Okay, that would come from Kelly. Go ahead, Kelly.
I'd be happy to do
Thanks for being with us.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Gail. I'd be happy to do that. Sheena was born August 1st, 1986. And unfortunately, we lost Sheena on January 1st of 2009. She's a very bright, vibrant girl with a very large personality, although she wasn't that large herself. But you can't help but to explain her in a very large way. I know you needed, the date of birth and some description, but I'm not sure how far to go on that, Gail.
Just tell me a little bit what happened that night. Just brief.
Okay. Sheena and her boyfriend had been arguing quite a bit through the month of December, and they were at my home on Christmas evening, and you could tell that there was some stress in the relationship, but, we videotaped, we opened presents, we did that sort of thing, and then from my understanding, there was a large argument that night after they went home. And then it's my understanding that the boyfriend wanted to take her away for a couple days for New Year's. They go to a hotel in Anna Maria Island, Florida, which is about an hour and a half from Tampa. They check into a hotel room and also go to a restaurant to watch some fireworks. And that evening, there's a domestic dispute that the neighbors in the room of the hotel called the police. It's my understanding the boyfriend claims to have left her at the hotel room, and he claims to have gone back to his home in Indian Rock Beach. I do know that the police did come to handle the domestic dispute, but they did very little. They did pass the boyfriend in the stairway. They did not apprehend him. They did not question him. And they really did very little. It's my understanding that the police were in the parking lot at the time of the call, and were able to respond very quickly. When the police arrived, it shows in the report, and may I go on with the details of what the police reported?
What I'd like to know is, what city and state did this happen in?
Well, Sheena lived in Tampa, Florida, but her death occurred in Anna Maria Island, Florida, which is Manatee County and the Bradenton Beach area.
Okay. I guess the first thing I gotta ask is, who's Derek that's involved?
Derek?
Or the name with Derek?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I'm going to write this
Okay.
down. I'll take notes for you, so don't bother writing anything.
Okay. I keep seeing a man, looks to me to mid to late 20s. I would call it a husky build. And I feel like this person had involvement.
Okay.
I keep saying, I feel like that Derek might not be, it may not be the first name.
Okay.
And somehow I keep seeing, was drugs involved with her or the boyfriend?
Well, I can tell you this. Sheena was a very, excuse me, Sheena was very anti-drugs. She didn't mind so much if, you know, if somebody did a little bit of marijuana, but anything beyond that, she would very strongly voice her opinion against it. However, Sheena's father and I did suspect that the boyfriend may have been involved with drugs. Her father, who is in chat right now, he had stayed with Sheena and the boyfriend at his home, and he had mentioned a few times that people would come to his home. He would go into the lower floor / basement, if you would call that in Florida, and he would state that he had to pay some employees. So that suspicion with her father was always there.
Okay, because somehow I see drugs involved in this. And there was never a raid with the boyfriend?
Not that I can find in the background check. However, in his background check, and I'm not sure how far you want me to go with this, in the background check of the boyfriend, there is an arrest for an associate of his that was, one, arrested for having a grow house and also arrested for murder.
Okay. Now, the next thing that's bothering me is, are they saying that this is a murder, or are they saying this is a suicide?
The police, right away, called it a suicide without a absolute right away.
Okay, because I'm seeing that involvement, and that's what bothered me.
Mm-hmm.
So, how was she murdered then?
Okay. She was.
I'm saying murder because I don't see suicide.
Yeah, we have the case
Okay.
open as murder.
Well, and me as a person, you guys can say whatever you want, but I can't say that because I could have a case of slander against me. So I'm going to choose my words carefully here. Here's what I can tell you. My daughter was found in the hotel room where her and her boyfriend last were, and she was found hung in the shower, which is a stand-up shower.
Mm-hmm.
Her breath is only 6. The only investigation that they did do was they only dusted the shower for fingerprints. They found none, not hers, nor the boyfriend's, and this is after being in the hotel room for 2 days without any cleaning service.
Okay, so it was wiped clean.
I believe it was.
Apparently.
Yes.
Okay, because I'm not at all seeing. And I guess the next thing that bothers me is I don't feel this act was done alone.
Okay.
I see
I'm not going to say you're wrong because I think I'm with you.
I see two people, and I'm just trying to figure out what I'm seeing here exactly. And no one was picked up with a gun, or no one was questioned that has guns or into guns.
Well, let me tell you this.
I feel like one person is really heavily into guns.
Okay. Let me tell you this, Bill, that after my Sheena's death and the fact that there was a 911 domestic dispute call from the people next door in her hotel room, the boyfriend was not questioned for many, many weeks until I begged and pleaded with the detective to do so. And they only did it because I begged and pleaded. When you're speaking of guns, I do know the boyfriend did not carry legally, but it's my understanding that he did have a gun in the console of his car.
But he was also into guns.
I did take my daughter at one point to get her concealed weapons permit. I did find a file on that. I found her photo, and she wanted to do that, and she consulted me on that. And I was a bit nervous because of her age. A concealed weapons permit, and I would really recommend having one. But at the same point, when you're in a relationship that's a little gun to me as well.
Right. You know, the biggest issue, one thing here that I see is, you know, I don't feel like at the last that she was with him willingly.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with that at all.
And I feel like it was because something was hung over her head.
Not with boyfriend, Gail? Not with a boyfriend?
Not with the boyfriend.
Okay.
Not with the boyfriend willingly.
Got it.
Something was hung over her head that she saw, that she knew.
Well, you're right on. You're right on with that, Gail, and I'm going to tell you why. May I proceed with that?
Sure.
Okay. I know that there was a text message that was sent, and because her and her boyfriend had been fighting for several days prior to them leaving, she wasn't really all that willing. One of her excuses in her text messages were that she didn't have any clean clothes to go. She hadn't done laundry, and she wasn't going to go because she didn't have clean laundry. But the most important thing that she stated in her text message was she was not going to leave her babies on New Year's Eve. Her babies meaning her two Yorkies. Those were like her children to her, and she didn't want to go. Normally, either myself and mainly her grandma, she would always, let me quote unquote, hire her grandmother to watch the babies because one, grandma needed the money, and Sheena would pay well for grandma to watch the babies, but she did this on kind of like you know, not giving the money away, but made grandma feel like she was doing something important, in which she was. But on that day, because it's a holiday, Sheena did not want to leave her babies. So therefore, somehow, she was coaxed into going for this little holiday vacation, whatever you call it, when in actuality, she should have been here with us.
I don't feel like it was a holiday vacation. I feel like it was a drug deal.
Wow. Okay.
And that was kind of set up. There was a meeting and something else happened, and
Okay.
I also feel like she argued and said that she was going to tell.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that would most certainly be Sheena.
Because I feel like she started threatening back, saying that she was going to tell what was going on.
Yes. Yes.
And something about, and I can only say it's the way I'm hearing it. It's about bouncing someone's, pardon the word, ass back in jail. So whoever was there has been in jail before.
Okay. Now, we're recording this. I don't need to be taking notes.
No, I
right
am.
now,
Gail,
so
Gail, you said bouncing someone's what? Say that again.
Ass.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. Okay.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Okay.
That's exact words that was used to me. So
That's exactly the way I'm reading. Go ahead.
that's Sheena talking right there.
Yeah. Because she said something about going to bounce your ass right back in.
Okay.
And it really, really didn't go over well. Did they show signs that she'd been hit? Was there bruising on the left side of the face?
this is the mystery part, Gail, and the problem that I have most of all with this is that there in the autopsy, there is bruising that's not reported in the autopsy. There's bruising that I saw and her father saw. We demanded to see her prior to going to the funeral home, and they denied us that. They wouldn't let us identify her, and they wouldn't let us see her. So they finally did, after the autopsy, they finally let us see her, but it was after the autopsy, and of course the only thing they would allow us to see was just her face.
Mm-hmm.
When I saw her face, I saw a bruise on the bridge of her nose. Now, Sheena did, however, prior to the police showing up for the domestic dispute,
Mm-hmm.
she took pictures of herself in her camera. There was a cut on her ring finger, and there's a cut on her neck that she took pictures of and reported.
Okay. Did you notice any bruises on the left side by the ear?
Let me see, the left.
Hold on, Gail. Left side by the ear.
Mm-hmm.
The problem I'm having with the left side by the ear is the earring that was in her ear is in the wrong hole in her ear.
Like it fell out? Somebody put it back in?
Somebody put it back in. Because the reason why I'm asking you these questions is because when she said that about bouncing him back in jail, I feel like she was hit along the left side of the head, right, at the ear. It would have hit her. With a hand, but it was like a backhand knuckle. And I feel like it just passed the hairline, so the bruise might have showed there.
Okay, there's a report in the police report about a flinging watch. He wore a large watch.
Well, when he hit with it like that, it might have hit her in the head, the watch. But but nevertheless, it was on the left side. And I don't know, something's getting brought up about shoes too that didn't make sense. Something about the shoes didn't make sense.
Okay. Are you getting whose shoes that is?
I feel like it's her shoes that didn't make sense, but I couldn't see the pair of shoes. I wasn't shown the pair of shoes.
Okay.
But the shoes didn't make sense. Was there shoes on her at the time?
No, there was no shoes on her at the time, but there's an issue I have with what's on the bottom of her feet.
Okay, because maybe that's what she means about the shoes part didn't make sense. Wouldn't she have had shoes on?
I would think a lot of her bags were packed. Most of her things were packed after they had their dispute.
Did you also find that all her clothing was there?
When we got her belongings back, we had gone back to the hotel, and fortunately the hotel has been...
She had a shirt with a star on it.
I think that might be on the hoodie that she was wearing.
Because she was wearing... something was changed and put on. The other one, and the shirt is missing.
Wow.
Shirt.
Okay, I'm going to have to make note of that.
I'm doing that for you.
Thank you.
Did she wear white T-shirts frequently?
Yes.
Because
yes.
I feel like a white T-shirt was taken off and this other was put on. So the star shirt. Let me get this right. The star shirt is there. Am I correct?
I'm not sure. When I got the clothes back that she was wearing, I never opened them for logistic reasons. They're wrapped in plastic, taped closed, and I won't open them. Although I have been through every single one of the crime scene photos, so I'm not sure on the T-shirt that's underneath. I'm not sure if there's an emblem of the star on it.
real
Okay,
quick, Kelly. You're saying you have like an evidence bag?
I do.
Okay, and you haven't opened it?
No.
Okay, I would really wait on that, and because if you're going to do another autopsy or whatever,
Yeah,
I wouldn't open it, because I think that.
Yeah, no.
I'm just saying that's something that she's saying is
Right.
important, is
Okay.
the fact that there was a white T-shirt. And
Okay, I thought you were going to
shirt-
open it. Okay.
No, the shirt with the star. That's important, and that
I got that.
something was changed.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was thrown. There was one that was thrown in the trunk of the car, and I don't know if these. I'm trying to figure out if these are socks or whatever, but I swear it looked like red knee highs or leggings.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you know what
no,
that is?
No, I'm not. I'm not laughing because I think it's odd. I'm laughing because that's so Sheena. Sheena was a fashion guru. So when it came to like Christmas and holidays and things like that, she would do the leggings. She would do the leg warmers and.
Yeah, it looked like to me like red leggings.
Okay.
And they aren't there because for some reason, there's evidence, and it was put in the trunk of a car.
Wow. Wow.
So it must have been on her. Was put in the trunk of the car. I don't know what color, but I see it like a dark blue car.
Yeah, that's not the first time I've heard of this dark-colored car.
That's the one I feel like pulled up, and that's the other person's car.
Yeah, and that's not what the boyfriend drove at the time, and this is the second time I've heard of this dark-colored car, so this is very interesting to me.
Did he have a pickup truck?
His company, one of the companies that he has is I'm going to be careful here how I describe this. There is a drywall company, a painting company, and things of that nature. So his company had access to a van, pickups, and such.
Okay.
And I'm not trying to be hesitant.
I'm just trying to understand what I'm seeing, because that dark car is where the leggings, I feel like, were thrown.
What, pickup truck or dark car?
The dark car.
Because
they left, that person left alone.
Dark.
And then the other one left, which I feel like might be the boyfriend.
In which car?
In the other vehicle, not in the dark car. The dark car was, to me, it looks like a kind of a light-haired, sandy, kind of brown-haired guy.
Okay.
Slightly, a little bit thin on top. Even though he's in his 20s, he looks a little thin on top. Not like head is showing, but thin.
Gail, are you getting that their fight that evening, domestic dispute, was that planned?
I don't feel like it was planned as much as it was because she was threatening to put this other person back in jail, which meant the boyfriend would go too.
Okay. And is something like this where this person could have been that close nearby the location that they were at to show up?
Yeah. I do feel like they were there, and that's the reason why he stayed there.
Okay.
I mean, it was set up. This was set up beforehand. It was. Let's put it this way: it was pleasure business.
Thank you. This is what I thought, and I've got a reason for why I think that. Is it okay if I go on with that theory?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay. it seemed as though Sheena and I were being purposely put into an argument. And in addition to that, a fax came to my home from the boyfriend's business place, which was very unusual. We don't use our home phone for anything other than a fax. This wasn't public information. And so when I sent a text message to the boyfriend that I've received a fax, it's kind of like all hell broke loose. Almost like he knew all hell was going to break loose if I sent that text message. There's no way that I should have received a fax from his business. It doesn't make any logical sense leading right up to New Year's.
Yeah, and I just really, like I said, I feel like this was planned, not her murder, but planned what he was doing, why he was there. But she was with him.
I'm looking
under how do I put this? Against her will.
Gail, I'm looking at the chat, and I see her father typing in, and he's reminding me of something that the boyfriend said to her father. When I asked the boyfriend to call her father, the boyfriend spoke of Sheena in the past tense, and she said to her father, the boyfriend said to Sheena's father, "Why couldn't she have just gotten along with my kids?"
Meaning what?
It was odd that it was in the afternoon before we even knew that Sheena had passed. He had already spoken about her in the past tense.
Right. Well, that tells you that he knew, and he knew what happened.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't do it alone. He didn't act alone. Not the whole thing.
And my current husband, when he saw Brian's drawing, my current husband seemed to relate to Brian's drawing much better than I did. He felt that was much more along the lines of a more open possibility. And
I haven't seen any of Brian's work, so I don't know.
Oh, okay. All right. He wasn't at all surprised by that. For me, it was...
I didn't know anything about the case. I'm just, like I said, right now is what you're hearing is the only thing I know of is what I'm getting.
Okay.
Or what you said.
Don't worry, Gail. I'm going to ask you some questions when you're done.
But I guess this is the biggest thing I can see is that, there's two parties responsible here. And the argument broke out. I don't believe that man was there at the time, but came back. So, and has anybody been able to check his cell phone records as to who he called?
Well, yeah.
Have they been able to be subpoenaed?
Well, this is the real mysterious part, is I did ask the boyfriend for his cell phone records, which he only provided me with what he wanted. So he did skip several dates. I was not supplied with his text message records because I explained to the boyfriend, I'm not done with this. My daughter didn't commit suicide. I'm not done with this. He didn't really like that so much, but he did volunteer to give me some records. I have checked those records, but I know that several of the dates are missing. I also asked for his SunPass records. And Gail, in the state of Florida, a SunPass is kind of like an Easy Pass in New York. It's a transmitter.
Yeah. Well, I'm in Florida a lot, so I know.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm aware.
In order to come back from Anna Maria Island to Indian Rocks Beach, the most logical route is to cross the Sunshine Skyway. Well,
right.
it shows him using the transmitter going there, but on the way back, there's no record of him coming back, like he says.
Well, because he didn't.
Okay. Now, when you talk about those cell records, I asked the detective for months to summons those records, and he wouldn't. The detective does not want us pursuing this at all whatsoever. So finally, when we hired a homicide, our attorney is a former prosecutor. He did ask for those records. When we got those records, they finally said, okay, well, we have them, but at the same point, they said they can't really give us any information from them. It was kind of, the whole thing was kind of useless, that it was kind of a court order that, okay, the detective got them. He didn't know how to read the codes on which cell phone tower was being pinged off of.
Okay, where is he now? Do we know?
Yeah, I relocated him. I do know that he sold the home that he was living in, and I was able to relocate him. He's leasing a condo overlooking Clearwater Beach. It's an approximately a $1.3 million condo overlooking Clearwater Beach.
Because I really got to believe that he's still going to be tripped up and get caught.
How can I help that happen?
I think you are right now.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
This is going play. I mean, I think we're going to be able to do something with this because
He's going to get tripped up here, and something's going to give, and somebody's going to talk.
Kelly, Gail, whenever you're done, let me know. Then I want to just go over the notes I have from you real fast.
I'm done for right now, Brian. That doesn't mean I won't get more later, but yeah, for right now I'm done. So yeah, go ahead.
Okay, you said that. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I just ask a couple questions, Gail?
Yeah, sure.
I have a pretty good idea the hour in which I think my daughter died. Can you get that at all? Because with her autopsy, they don't give us that. They give us from the time she was last seen by the police to the time she was found.
Okay, and what hour are you thinking it is?
Well, I know that her last text message that she sent out was at 2:37, and I cannot believe that she would possibly go silent or even so much as lay down and go to sleep after the argument.
Okay, it was at 2:37, and what did she say at 2:37?
At 2:37, she said, "I can't believe you just left me here."
Mm.
In an earlier text message, she states, your better bet is to stop being an alpha male and keep your hands off women."
Because I'm not seeing any, I'm seeing more like 3:30. That's why I questioned you.
Okay. Sheena was anxiously awaiting that evening. Her cousin was in labor, and Sheena was texting her cousin that night who was in labor. Sheena was very excited for this baby, Olivia, to be born. And I don't believe that Sheena ever got the message that Olivia had been born. And Sheena was waiting all night long for this. She was texting, I'm going to be an auntie. There's another friend that she would text and say, okay, she's 7 centimeters. How much longer is it going to be? And I believe the baby was born at about 4 o'clock. Ashley, if you're in the chat room, could you please say the time that Olivia was born?
Yeah, I don't think she ever got the final message.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Because he came back.
There's an issue with the key to the room. Do you get anything about that?
I don't see anything around. It doesn't mean there isn't, something fishy with it. But I'm not seeing anything right now.
Okay. I'm getting a message through now that Sheena told Ashley that she would be there in 12 hours. And then Olivia was born at 4:48 a.m. there was an alarm clock that went off in Sheena's room, which Sheena didn't use alarm clocks, and she would have never in a million years gotten up at 5 a.m. to begin with. But the neighbors reported an alarm clock going off at 5 a.m. in her room and was momentarily shut off. Now, I know that my daughter was not alive at that point.
No. No. So somebody was still there cleaning up the mess.
Yes.
Because somebody saw the car leave.
Mm-hmm.
I really feel like somebody was loading up their car at that hour and actually saw him leave, not realizing it. But they may talk. Someone may come about yet.
Okay.
That remembers this. And I don't know why, but I see a bubble top on a car.
Bubble
or
top.
like a van, minivan.
Like a sunroof?
No, bubble top like you have for traveling. Carry extra stuff in.
Got it. Okay.
The carry-on. Okay.
Okay.
So, yeah, I feel like they were possibly loading up their vehicle when they saw him take off out of there.
Do you see at all her cause of death?
You know, I feel like there should have. I'm not sure if they did a toxicology and all that, but I feel like they might find drugs or something in the body.
Okay.
Something that doesn't make sense.
Yes.
Here's what happened, and here's what's very odd was when I talked with the medical examiner after that they told me that my daughter was found hung in the shower, they said that they were running the toxicology reports and it was going to be 8 to 12 weeks before we got those back. But within less than a week, and we hadn't even laid her to rest yet, the toxicology reports come back. The toxicology reports come back that Sheena's alcohol content was under the legal limit. There was some caffeine and nicotine in her system. That makes sense to me. What doesn't make sense is that it's New Year's Eve and her alcohol level is that low. Okay, because
Right.
it's New Year's Eve and she's 22, and by that hour of the night, I would have thought she would have consumed a few more drinks. But that's what the toxicology showed. In terms of the caffeine, she didn't drink coffee, but she did drink Red Bull and Kettle One. The nicotine, she smoked cigarettes. So all that makes sense to me. What doesn't make sense to me is that when I got the autopsy report back, the very last sentence of the autopsy report says, the mother says she used Vicodin and LSD. Well, this is alarming to me because, first of all, I never said that she used LSD. I never mentioned that in a million years. The second thing is she had Vicodin when she had some work done on her teeth and when she had breast augmentation.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes,
Well, the only thing that's bothering me is I wonder if she was unconscious when she was hung, because that's my feeling.
and you know what, Gail, that's and I'm going to tell you, you're the third person that we've spoken to about this, and that is exactly what they think.
Yeah, because I don't feel that she was at all conscious at the time.
I'm hearing from both that she did not do this herself. There was one medium that went to her hotel room that said she did not die in the shower.
No, I feel like she died on the floor of the room by the bed.
Now, did you mention...
I mean, of sorts, in the sense of saying she was totally unconscious. She might have been barely alive when she was put up there.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't feel that she was conscious at all when she was hung. That's why there's no struggle.
Yeah, that's been my feeling all along, and that's why they automatically opted for the suicide, because they couldn't find the struggle.
If she could reach the floor, the one thing I'll tell you, it's really, in a sense, hard to hang yourself. Brian, you should know this too.
Especially in a bathroom.
Because your desire to live and save yourself is stronger. And you, if most frequent, 98% of the time you'll stop it. The people that are successful at hanging themselves are those that hang from a high point where there is nothing to help save them once they've done it. They can't change their mind because there's nothing to, in a bathtub you can change your mind, reach over, get footed,
Right, and I spoke with a former New York City homicide investigator, and he said there's definitely a problem here because unless you are on a lot of drugs or alcohol, it's
self-preservation kicks in.
It's hard to do. It's just really hard to do. And
it's just like saying you're going to drown yourself in 3 foot of water.
Right. And Gail, did I discuss with you her dogs?
Yeah, and she wouldn't have left them.
She was hung with her dog's leash.
Yeah. No, she wouldn't have done that.
No.
Where were the dogs?
She didn't even want to get there because of her dogs.
Because she was hung with the dog's leash. Where were the dogs? She brought a
leash. They were there as well.
Okay.
Including the dogs were there in the room, but on top of which, Brian...
The dogs were there in the room. Do you think she would have left the dogs alone? No.
Oh, hell no. She didn't even want to leave to go there without the dogs. So no. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to use that word. I'm sorry.
Help yourself. This is you say whatever you want.
Okay. I get emotional when it comes to this because here my daughter doesn't even want to go because she doesn't want to leave her dogs on New Year's Eve. So now the police are going to tell me that my daughter hangs herself in a shower, leaving, okay, it's a stand-up shower, the tub is separate, it's a garden tub, it's separate, and now you're going to tell me that my daughter hangs herself in a shower with her dog's leash, with the shower door open and the bathroom door open. There's no possible way.
And the dog's there alone. She would not leave them there alone.
She couldn't wait for that baby to be born. She couldn't wait to meet with a friend of hers, Patricia's, that was her ex-boyfriend's mother, to go to the melting pot. The following week, she had overbooked herself, as a matter of fact. I was supposed to be helping her find, I'm in real estate, I was supposed to be helping her find rental homes in the West Chase area. She refused to move in with the boyfriend. She wanted to stay in the area with her mom and her stepdad. She didn't want to move to the beach, and she didn't want to give up. She didn't want to give up her own place per se, and if she was going to, she wanted to stay close to mom.
Right. No,
and
the thing is, the thing that clicks for me is self-preservation. There's some things, hanging yourself like that and drowning yourself are two of the hardest things to do.
Well, even when you do that, when you do that, you're fighting, right? And you're moving your arms and stuff. And at the time of death, I even believe that they can tell by the muscles, the condition where the muscles are at. I'm no forensic person, but
there's just no way. It didn't happen.
Go ahead,
way.
Kelly. Go ahead.
I don't see it. I just don't see it.
No, I'm not sure if this was brought up, Kelly, but the condition of what was on Sheena's feet, but not on the floor of the shower or anything else. Did you explain that to Gail?
I don't think I did. Let me do that. Gail, unfortunately, I've had the daunting task of going through every single crime scene photo. I went through the crime scene photo, which were very few from the detective himself. I went through the crime scene photos of the medical examiner, and I went through the crime scene photos when Manatee County Sheriff was called in to process the scene. I didn't want to do this, and I didn't think I would need to, because I thought, well, that's why you hire a private investigator, right, to do those things. But it got to the point where I felt like something inside of me, something was being missed in those photos. And I thought, well, okay, you know what? I'm her mom, and I got to do it. I don't know what it's going to mean to me later. I don't know if I'm not going to be able to sleep later. But she's my daughter, and I'm going to look at these photos, and I'm going to know if something's out of place. And I found two things out of place. The first thing I found out of place is that, well, actually, I'm going to have to give this credit to my husband. because he jumped in. He didn't want to see these. He made me take notice to the fact that there's a great deal of sand on the bottom of my daughter's feet. In order to have that sand on her feet, she would have had to walk up 3 flights of concrete stairs, which is on the outside of the building. This is a beach building, beach hotel. It's not a high-rise with carpet and things like that. This is a beach hotel. So she would have had to walk up 3 flights of concrete stairs, which most of that sand would come off. Most of us have the natural instinct to try to brush that stuff off. So if she had sand on her feet, walked back into the hotel room, and then walked into the bathroom to go hang herself, she would have had to have stepped across a white towel that was placed on the floor in front of the sink and then into the shower. So when we zoom into the shower floor, we only see a couple specks of sand that's directly underneath her feet. So now the shower has no fingerprints, including not hers, after 2 days of being there, and no sand all over the shower floor, which you're going to take several steps, turn around, and like you said, with that kind of cause of death, the body is going to, I've done enough study on this, the body, the body died in the shower, there's going to be some fluctuation in the body in the shower.
Right, right.
And I don't see any evidence of that.
No, because here is what I really feel, that I will say no doubt she was killed, most likely finished with the dog leash, but she might have been partially asphyxiated with the dog leash prior to being put in the shower.
But wouldn't there be a ligature mark that would be different?
Not if you hold someone up or go take them back over your shoulder.
Right. Okay.
Which is really what I feel. When he got a hold, he twisted, turned, and she was her back to his back as he pulled up. So he must have been taller.
He was, let me see, she was 5'4". David, if you're listening, if you can help me with those heights. I think Sheena was 5'4".
What was her weight?
The weight in the autopsy was much higher than her weight.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out alcohol consumption as far as your whatever with your blood when it came back as far as alcohol in the system. Do you know how much she weighed at the? I guess at the autopsy.
I'm gonna say she was probably about 115 pounds.
Okay. So that doesn't take.
She weighed a little bit more than me, only because she was a little bit taller than me.
Okay, then she must have only had 2 or 3 drinks.
Which was very odd, Brian.
Yeah, okay,
That's very odd, Gina. Now, it's my understanding that when they were at the beach house to watch the fireworks, I questioned the waitress who waited on them, and I asked about Sheena's demeanor, and she said, oh, I knew I was getting a good tip. She was so delightful, she was so wonderful, and so happy at that moment. And, but they reported the boyfriend drinking doubles that night. So I sent messages out to several people who had been with Sheena and him before, and that's a very unusual thing that he would have drank doubles, and I thought that was unusual as well.
Do you know what type of test that the toxicology report? What type of test did they use? What did they test for?
Yeah, they did very small. They did not do a date rape test.
Okay.
But I will give them credit on this part.
Go ahead.
My husband and I just met with them a couple weeks ago, and when we met with them, we were very careful in explaining that we had hired a homicide attorney and a private investigator, and we found a lot of information so that we weren't blaming them for, the lack of work that was done, but they only do so much as to what's given to them by the police, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they explained to me that they didn't do a date rape kit on her, and because I didn't suspect drug use, they didn't really go that far into the test. But however, as of 2 weeks ago, they have resubmitted all the blood work to a different lab for everything.
Okay. Do you know the name of the person that requested the initial toxicology test? You don't have to tell us on the air, but do you have that? Do you know that?
The name of the person who requested the toxicology?
Yeah.
You mean like the medical examiner?
Okay, so that's who requested it then, the medical examiner? And that was per request of the police?
I think that they did that on their own, a preliminary.
So just the standards, but the police didn't tell them, hey, you need to. I mean, there was no test for anything to do with date rape, drugs, or anything like that, correct?
No, and here's
but
what
usually
I
there
would
is. Well, I'm saying usually there is. In circumstances like this, they do test for that because it happens a lot.
I would like to put this on the record, Brian.
Okay.
When we laid Sheena to rest, we had come back to pack up her apartment, and her father, her stepmother, my husband, and I, we did that task, and we went to lunch, and I proceeded to call the detective on the case. And when I called him, I asked him, have you questioned the boyfriend? And his response was, no. Why? Should I?
Okay. So no test for GHB or anything like that, though.
How are they listing?
I mean, that's to me that would be standard.
Death right now. Have they changed it from suicide, or are they leaving it suicide?
No. At this point, they've left it suicide by hanging self.
Okay.
Oh, boy.
Well, that's why nothing's getting done, because it's classified as a suicide. We have
Right.
to. Okay.
And when I met with the state prosecutor, my husband and I met with the state prosecutor, and we're trying to fight things, and we're trying to get answers between, the cell phone pinging and everything else. His statement was to me, you saw the crime scene photos. I heard you went through them. It is what it is.
Okay, well, it's not what it is, because, okay, look, whatever happened, they need to look at this. I mean, you just can't say it's a suicide. I mean, if there are questions or whatever, the case needs to be reopened, period. You shouldn't have to be fighting anything. If you suspect, I mean, what you told us... There's 11 people in the Bradenton Beach Police Department, and prior to them closing the case, I went to the detective and I asked him, what was he going to do with this case? And he said, I can't do anything with it until I get the toxicology reports back. And I said, okay, then humor me. What is your gut? And he said, it's a suicide, and it's better that way because the other wouldn't be. And he stopped himself and said, I'm sorry for your loss. Okay.
It's a tourist, Brian.
Right. I understand that. Yeah, I know how, okay. You shouldn't have to be going through any of this, and shame on the police for that. Gail, I wanted to go over your notes real fast, okay? Is that okay, or do you want to do that offline? Gail.
Oh no, I'm fine. I'm an open book on this. Okay. The only thing we can't do.
No, I mean Gail.
We can't accuse any single person.
Yeah.
And we can't mention any names.
Gail. Did Gail leave us?
No, they did not. My husband was just asking if they do a rape kit, and they did not do a rape kit either.
Okay.
Now, on that note...
I'm here, Brian.
Okay, go ahead.
On that note, there's another thing that I found in the crime scene photos, and that is that she was wearing a pair of white pants with about a 3-inch elastic band around the waist. And I noticed that after she was taken down, the pants were on the, let's see, if I was in the same position, on the right-hand side of her hip, the pants were pulled down. She wouldn't have been walking around like that. The other side was up and one side was down. I asked the medical examiner, is that possible for those indentations? You know, like when you sleep at night, you wake up with pillow marks on your face. Can that happen afterwards? She said, well, yes, it can, but here's what I noticed. After I discussed with the medical examiner, there was never any before wrinkles in her skin. So those wrinkles in the skin, those pants were pulled down on one side, which leads me to believe she was dragged to that location.
Okay.
Right.
Gail, real quick.
And there's also Gail, I want to see if you can tune into something for me. This is really important to me. There's two things.
Okay.
One is the date. She died January 1st. Want to see if you get anything there. And the other is the diamond bracelet she had on her.
Okay, and they didn't find the diamond bracelet.
Yes, it was on her.
Okay, it was on her?
Yes.
Okay. Because I'm just not seeing anything on either one of those right now. That doesn't mean it isn't important. It just means that that's right now, I'm just not seeing it.
Can I explain the diamond bracelet?
Sure.
When she received the diamond bracelet, it was on Christmas at my home. And the batteries in my camera were drained. Sorry, I just hate using the other word these days. I just can't. So I take out my video camera. We never use the video camera, and I just happened to take it out that night. So she's opening up her gifts from the boyfriend, and when she takes the bracelet, which is a diamond tennis bracelet, out of the box, she takes it out with her right hand and she places it on her left wrist, very automatically.
Mm-hmm.
I went through all the other photos that she would wear bracelets in, and they were always on her left wrist. Well, in the crime report, that bracelet is on her right wrist. That doesn't make sense to me. That's a problem for me. The other problem is that the boyfriend's birthday, it was known that his birthday was December 19th. And the reason I know this is two reasons. The first one is that Sheena asked Oz and I to have cake for his birthday because on the 18th, because on the 19th, she was taking him to New York City for his birthday.
Okay.
And they did just that. When I did the background check on the boyfriend, I was alarmed, appalled, shocked, and in fear. The boyfriend's birthday is not December 19th. Now I can go to Sheena's calendar and I can scan and email her calendar on December 19th. It states exactly these words. December 19th, his 45th birthday, leaving for JFK at 6:05 a.m., staying at the W in Midtown. That's on December 19th. I get the background check, and his birthday is 1/1, the same day my baby dies.
Mm-hmm.
And never says, oh my goodness, I can't believe my fiance died on my birthday. Never. No, as a matter of fact, he does the total opposite. He tries to convince us that day, before we even know that anything's wrong with her, he tries to convince us that she's suicidal all of a sudden in one day.
Huh. Now, has anybody checked to see if he's killed before?
Well, you know, it's a
What?
really good question.
Okay, if he has, he should be in prison, Gail.
Well, no, that doesn't. I mean, is there any strange or weird death surrounding him before with any people,
I've tried to research this.
girlfriends, whatever?
I don't feel I have the right help behind me to really give me this information, and that's part of the problem I have. I almost feel like, Gal, that I get to a certain point where someone starts helping me, and for some reason, they back off.
Because I don't really feel like, I feel like there may have been another person somehow that's been around him that's ended up dead.
Yeah, and I feel that someone is not coming forward, and I don't know if that's because there's an interest with the FBI. I don't know if somebody else is involved trying to cover this up, but there's definitely, and I'm not accusing the boyfriend, but there's something going on that's just not right.
Okay. Gail,
Yes.
Let me go over your notes real fast. If you get anything else, let me know so I can write it down, because I'm scanning them in right now. Okay, initially you said person's name might be Derek, mid to late 20s, husky build. Has involvement, might be his first name, it might not be his first name, Derek. Okay.
Right.
Drugs. Raid with boyfriend. Into guns. There are 2 people involved. He wasn't with the boyfriend at the time. What's this, Williams? Or Winning? I don't know, I can't read my own handwriting. Willing. Do you remember what you said there? Willingly, sorry.
No.
Willingly.
Willingly, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That Sheena was not willingly going to Anna Maria Island.
Okay. Something's not right here. You said left side by ear, there's a bruise. Your shoes didn't make sense. Shirt with a star. The shirt was missing. She wore a lot of white T-shirts. Red leggings. Put in trunk of car, a dark car. The red leggings, right, Gail?
Right.
A pickup truck may be involved. One person left alone. That person may be very close. Was set up beforehand. Pleasure, business type of thing, you were saying. She was
right.
with him. I can't read my writing again. She was with him. Oh my gosh. Again, I guess. I'm sorry. That's terrible. I can't read my handwriting. I was writing fast. Did not act alone. Other man came back. 3:30 is the time of death, you said, Gail, or was that from Kelly?
That's what I said.
Okay. Someone saw the car leave. Bubble top. I mean, like a carrier, a luggage carrier, right? Is that what you're talking about? Luggage carrier on the vehicle, like bubble top. That's what you described it, correct? Gail?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything else I should take notes on, Gail?
No, I think that you got it pretty good, Brian.
Okay. Kelly, can I ask you some questions real fast?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, and I'm asking you these questions. Gail, some of the stuff that you said kind of relates along to what I have, and then some of it doesn't. I disagree with a few things. Was your daughter on any type of antidepressant or anxiety drugs? And I'm not saying because of suicide. I'm going with something here.
To my knowledge, no, Brian.
Okay.
To my knowledge.
Okay, because those drugs a lot of times interfere with date rape drugs and issues like that.
My daughter was very anti-drugs.
Right, but
if anything, okay, her best friend is sending something here. She got a script given to her, but never filled it.
Okay.
She said she could do without it on her own. That's the message that I just got from.
That's nothing to be ashamed of. I mean, a third of the country is on some type of antidepressant.
You know what? Brian, my doctor gave me a script of antidepressants. They gave me anti-anxiety. I haven't taken anything.
Okay.
Unlike most mothers, I know most mothers in my situation, they're on a lot of stuff right now. I'm trying to help them with that. My probably, my medicine is, glasses of wine to put me to sleep at night.
Mm-hmm.
I did hear from one of Sheena's friends. One of Sheena's friends told me, now this is one of Sheena's friends that Sheena had been trying to help for a long time. Her friend had a very bad problem with pills.
Okay.
Vicodin specifically. And Sheena was trying to help her get off them. Sheena couldn't help her get off them. And she has now been dry since Christmas of this year. And when she talks to me about this, she said that that the boyfriend had the prescriptions to those types of drugs. Now the boyfriend, I do want to make note that I have found facts and confirmed the facts that the very next day after Sheena died, the boyfriend was at a local strip club in Tampa, Florida, the very next day.
Okay.
There's other facts that I do know about this as well as currently as what's going on, but I've got to be really careful that I don't mention these things because my informant could be blown in.
Okay.
I will say that it involves another young girl.
Okay.
I'm very fearful of what could happen there.
Okay. The island of Anna Maria, correct? That's Anna Maria Island?
That's correct.
Okay, and that's where she went missing from? I have it open on Google Earth. Gail, I was trying to get some locations from you, but we'll get that off show if you don't mind. Gail? Okay, Gail's
Yeah,
muted.
I can hear you.
How many people do you estimate are on that island? I mean, to me, it doesn't look like any more than 2,000 or 3,000 at the most.
It's a pretty small island, Brian.
Strictly
It's
tourist town.
It's a very, I really don't know the population. I haven't really looked into that,
Okay.
but they really protect it as a very quaint tourist town, and it's very protected.
Okay. The police, you said there were 11 people on the police force?
From my understanding, that's
okay.
correct.
Now, I know you don't want to give names, but the detective in charge of this case we discussed. Now, apparently he's seen, or he or she, was it he or she? I think it was a he.
The detective, I believe, would be public knowledge, so I'm going to go ahead
and
announce the name. The detective is Sergeant Leonard Diaz.
Okay. Now, Leonard has seen a lot of suicides lately.
A lot, yes.
Okay. Now, it's not a very big area, but he's seen a lot of suicides. This is public knowledge. And he just saw one suicide. I'm just saying that you're so used to seeing so many suicides that another one wouldn't surprise you, and you wouldn't want to say, well, you know what I'm saying? You wouldn't want to investigate further if you just think it's another suicide. From the looks of it, apparently they thought it was a suicide to begin with. They didn't bother going any further than that, right?
When you do a public search on the court cases that Sergeant Leonard Diaz goes on, and I've done that, I have that capability to do that. Unfortunately, in Florida, most things are public. Everything is public, from the 911 phone call
Sunshine
to everything else. And I'd be more than happy to play the 911 call for you if you'd like that.
Yeah, we'd love it. I had some other questions. So okay, there could be a possibility that she was on antidepressants, maybe given to her by the boyfriend or something. With those drugs, it takes a while for them to work, and then if you get off of them, you can have side effects too. And I'm not pointing toward suicide, though. I'm pointing to maybe interaction with any other type of drug she may have been given.
Yeah, you know what? She had a really hard time swallowing even so much as an aspirin.
Okay.
So I'm not sure that I buy the whole antidepressant thing. Even when it came down to birth control, she didn't like doing those because she didn't like swallowing pills.
Okay, so she didn't abuse drugs. She didn't take drugs. So if she were to be given, let's say, something like GHB, she wouldn't have any tolerance to it at all.
I'm not sure what EHB is, Brian.
It's a date rape drug.
No, she would have no tolerance.
So no tolerance. Okay.
Whatsoever.
And you said she weighed 115 pounds. Okay, and
that might go over it. Some of her friends were weighing her in at 100 to 105.
Okay, now here we go. Now, do you know if she was eating that day?
Yes, she had eaten at the Beach House restaurant where she planned to get married.
Okay, and a lot of times when they give them drugs, it's put in alcoholic beverages without their knowledge. I mean, that's why it's a date rape drug. I'm saying that's if an accident occurred. But looking at the dreams that I have, I don't think it was an accident. I would think it was murder, and I disagree with some other things. I think there were two people involved, and I believe that. Is there any possibility this boyfriend may be working for the police as far as an informant? Or maybe the boyfriend or knows somebody that's actually working undercover on drug operations.
There is a potential of that, and here's why I'm going to tell you that, is that when I got the background check, I started researching a lot of names in the background check, and one that came up was an Aniel Gomez. You can Google that in Port St. Lucie, Florida, and it's public knowledge that this gentleman, Aniel Gomez, was arrested for murder.
Okay.
And also for owning properties.
Okay. Port St. Lucie is a drug town. Port St. Lucie, I know the town. There's a lot of criminal activity there.
He pleaded guilty for owning drug houses. Where they were grow houses, they call them. Okay? Now, one of the things that I did find in there is that this Aniel Gomez did a quitclaim deed to Sheena's boyfriend / fiance, whatever the hell you want to frickin' call him. I'm sorry. I'm getting emotional now.
No, go ahead.
Whatever you want to call him, there's a quitclaim deed that Aniel Gomez gave this property to the boyfriend for $10.
Okay.
So now when I look at all these other properties in which the boyfriend has had an interest in, and with the business partner and everything else, these properties are in very rural areas, especially when it comes to Florida. There's a couple other properties that I found, one which was in very close proximity, Brian, to where Paula Slodowski was killed. Okay. And another one to where Paula Slodowski left the club.
Okay.
And I know I'm bringing in a whole other case here, and I don't mean to muddy the waters, but when I start mapping things out, and I start looking at the backgrounds and the names and the things that I've researched, and there's something wrong here, Brian, and it's bigger than we even know.
Yeah, I can tell that. Okay, the boyfriend and whoever may be involved with, a lot of times, which you can do is that you can do a public record search. I mean, as far as newspapers go, as far as like drug arrests or something like that, and Okay, so
He was arrested.
But then they're not charged. That's what I'm saying. If somebody's an informant, the way to find out is if you can look through the newspapers, and you can do that online. If they're charged, if they're arrested with something, and then you follow up on the case and you don't see any charges, a lot of times they turned informant. Okay.
Okay.
And what I had gotten on this case is a little bit different than what Gail's gotten. I had gotten that this maybe there was some type of operation going on as far as drugs, like a drug task force or something like that. And this guy wasn't supposed to be there for some reason or another, and the police need to cover this up, because if they blow their cover, they probably jeopardize a huge investigation, and again, it could be a lot bigger than we think. And that might be some reason why maybe the local police were told they need to stay out of it for some reason or another. Because what I'm saying is, to them, it's more important to, if they had an ongoing operation, it would be more important to them for the operation than would be the life of your daughter, sadly to say that. But you know, if that were to blow a major drug bust or whatever, you know, I'm not saying the police are involved in anything like that, but they may have been told to look the other way for whatever reason, and I don't know. But go ahead.
I researched the public records for the detective on the case.
Okay.
And I did find that he was in some financial trouble in December, the month before my daughter passed.
Okay. I just wrote down some notes here too. When you come off when you're speaking to us, it sounds to me like you're scared. I mean, are you scared for your life or for your safety? Because that's the way it comes off to me, like you're scared. Because most people aren't scared to say, you know, the police needed to do this job, or aren't scared to name names. I mean, do you think that you might be in danger for some reason or another if this goes any further?
You know, it's funny because Sheena and my personality are a lot the same. Mm-hmm. We're both very feisty, and we say exactly what's on our mind. Okay. We're incapable of hiding our feelings. But then you ask me if I'm scared, which most of the days I walk around thinking I'm tough. Mm-hmm. I am one tough bitch, and I'm gonna finish this battle. But to answer your question, inside of me, yeah, Brian, I'm very scared. I installed cameras.
Okay, we live in America, though. You should not feel like that. That's why we have a justice system. And what you've told us tonight, I believe, is enough information to reopen this case. I mean, to me, there's no doubt, and I don't see any reason why not to, unless there's something we don't know. And there should.
I've been to the governor. I've been to the state prosecutor. I've been to the detective, and no one wants to help me. Brian, you are the first person to come forward to help me. You're the first person to believe that I'm not a mother in denial.
Well, no, if you were a mother in denial, I think it'd be pretty obvious. There's too much stuff here. There's too much evidence that points to the direction that she was murdered, and then for them to just pass this off like a regular suicide doesn't really make much sense at all. I mean, look at some of the cases right now. Look at Drew Peterson. Okay, look at the power of that one, and that's an example right here. That one man murdered his wife in the bathtub and got away with it for so long until the media got involved. Okay, that medical whatever guy, whoever did the autopsy, lied. There's no doubt in anybody's mind. But Drew Peterson was able to pull some strings. So I would not put this past whoever is covering this up. I mean, but I definitely believe that this is a cover-up. And I don't know how high it goes, but it could be, if it's not the police, and if it is some type of drug organization, there could be some legitimate fears here.
Yeah, I do have those fears, Brian.
But the cops are not acting like they should. They should take this higher. I mean, there should be, the government or the governor or whoever you've contacted might already be in contact with the feds or whatever, saying we have this situation handled, and then that might be the end to it from what they see. But they might not know. I mean, if this gets out like it should, I mean, this needs to be a national attention. This should be on the Grace Show or whatever. I mean, if people see this, they'll have no other choice but to reopen this because, I know that they can tell. There's so much evidence that they can probably still get, even from her, from her body or whatever, that you could see what's really going on. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, at all. Why would she kill herself to begin with? And I don't get it. Even what Gail says go ahead.
I want to tell you a story about something that happened shortly after Sheena passed. Okay. I was holding meetings at my home with several of Sheena's girlfriends, and I was being very careful as to which ones I would include when, which night. I just happened to know my daughter well enough that when I would question these girls, which groups I should do it in. And the night that I was holding a meeting, my mom, Grams, Gma, we call her Grams, Gma. She's a little hard of hearing, but she was always like Sheena's best friend. I told her, Grams, if you're going to be here, please be here on time when we start this meeting. And so Sheena's friends were here, the specific ones, and she came in. Grams was late, of course, and I was already in the middle of the meeting. I'm asking the friends questions. Come on, girls, tell me. Is there something I don't know here? Was Sheena suicidal? I don't know. Help me out here and fill me in. And all I could get was no. Okay? Well, at that time, when I'm in the middle of this meeting, my mother comes in, and I'm going to use the word flabbergasted because that's her word. She's trying to explain something to me, and shame on me, I shut her down, and I said, Grams, you're late, just sit down and listen, we're in the middle of the meeting. But she's flustered. She's, 72 years old, she's flustered, something's on her mind, but I've got a mission. I'm talking to the girls, we get done with the evening, and I can tell that the girls are upset because all of the girls were like, no, this is not possible. Not Sheena. Sheena was way too vibrant. She was also way too dramatic. If Sheena was going to go out, she would have gone out with drama, big drama, something, text message with some great, wonderful poetry, something like that. That's just the way Sheena was. She was a small girl with big words and big things to say and very feisty. There was nothing small when it came to Sheena. So, to get to my point, while I'm in the middle of this meeting, her father, David, text messages me and says, "Is everything okay there?" He knew my husband was out of town. He knew I was holding a meeting, but he sends me this text message to say, "Is everything okay there?" He was worried. Well, I didn't get it right away. I get back to him, the girls leave, I get back to him, and he says he had just gotten a phone call. Now, this is in New York. Her father's in New York. And he says that he had just gotten a phone call, anonymous phone call, unknown call, saying someone just called and screamed, "Stop," into the phone. Okay, now he's got my attention. Now I decide to call the girlfriends that were here to make sure that they got home safe. I go to call the girlfriend, and, let me back up. Now I discuss with my mom. The girls leave, and my mom says, when I tried to pull into your driveway, there's a white van without windows in the back, and possibly a ladder on the van sitting outside in your house blocking the driveway. And she implies that they had a listening device. Well, I don't know that. That's just Grams. However, I call Sheena's friends that were here that night, and I asked if they get home okay, and she's panicked. Absolutely panicked. I said, "What's going on?" And she said, "I was followed home by a white van all the way from your house, right to my driveway."
Okay. White van.
And she was scared. She was scared to death. Another one of her friends has already moved out of Florida into another area that I won't mention because obviously she's scared to death. She had been somewhere with Sheena and her boyfriend, and she is so scared that they're treating her as though she is that she's got some problems. And she doesn't have problems, it's just that she's really scared about something.
Okay. Okay. Anything else?
Yes.
Okay.
On December 18th, which was supposedly the day before the boyfriend's birthday, which is not true.
Okay.
Sheena had just left my home, and she goes home because she's getting ready to go to New York City to take her boyfriend to New York City the next day. She calls me up, and she's crying. She goes, "Mom, it's Matt." And I said, "Oh my God, Sheena." Now, Matt was a friend of Sheena's when she was like between the age of 12 and 14 years old. But I knew no other Matt, so I automatically knew that mothers just know things. Mothers just simply know things. That's all there is to it. So Sheena lived very close to me. I drove over there when she got in my car, and I said, "Where the hell is blank?" Meaning her boyfriend.
Okay.
And she goes, "Well, he's sleeping." I bring her back to my home. We sit at the counter. We take out the laptop. We start going through the MySpace pictures of her friend, Matt Kennedy. Rest in peace, Matt Kennedy, who had committed suicide. And he had hung himself. The boyfriend was aware of this. But Sheena had some strong feelings. She loved Matt dearly, but they had some distance between them for many years. And I'd spoken with a family member. They had a lot of signs. They had some signs that could be possible, and and he was in some trouble. But one of the things that Sheena had said was she did despise the act. She was very sad for Matt's child and very sad for Matt's family.
Okay.
The boyfriend was not supportive of this at this time. Sheena sent flowers on many of our behalves, which ironically arrived after her death. But Sheena also had a roommate that she had lived with formerly in a townhome in Clearwater. And apparently her roommate was going through some tough times and was close to kind of being somewhat suicidal. And Sheena was very against the act, let her through it, talked her out of it, would not stand for it. So when I come down to talking with friends that now disclose a lot of things to me, all I get is she's anti-drugs and she's anti-suicide. Now, the only thing I can think of, Brian, is that if Sheena found out that the boyfriend was involved with any sort of drugs, there is no doubt Sheena was going to use that against him. Now, she did say to her father, her stepfather, her stepmom Lisa, her friend, and an ex-boyfriend named Sal, she said that she had some things on him that could destroy him.
Okay, no, that makes a lot of sense to me right there. That makes a lot of sense. It could be, did they maybe get into an argument? That's why she didn't drink so much. He said, you know what, I know about you right now, and I'm going to turn you in or something like that. And then she left. Maybe that might explain not drinking so much that night, because it was New Year's, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, it's odd because, you know, Brian, I'm going to be very frank with you here. It would be a Friday night at 5 o'clock, and she'd be like, come on, Mom, let's have a drink.
Okay.
We became friends. So if it's New Year's Eve, late in the night, and I'm going to tell you something, she might have been a small girl, but she could handle her alcohol, and you would never see her tipsy, slur her words. She was never an out-of-control girl, no matter how small she was.
Yeah, but that's still, I mean, we're looking at the blood, the level of alcohol in the bloodstream.
Okay, so now we're looking at facts, the blood alcohol content, and she's under the legal limit, which is very unusual on a New Year's Eve for a 22-year-old girl, including my daughter Sheena.
Okay.
That tells me that she sensed something's wrong.
Okay, and let's say the boyfriend was connected to some type of drug organization or whatever, and you know, if you're part of some type of organized crime or something like that, and someone threatens to destroy your entire livelihood, and you know, if you were to get caught and go to prison for the rest of your life, murder is not out of the option. But what I'm getting is that the boyfriend did not kill her. But with the dream drawing that I have, and I don't know if you've seen that yet, Deborah, I was going to go over all of them real quick. I know it's getting late. But the last one says it's a drawing of the same person, and it says the number 99. He knows Sheena's boyfriend was paid. Okay, and I believe this is the same person. Maybe he could not commit murder on his own, probably for a lot of reasons. Not that he couldn't do it, but more than likely everybody turns toward the boyfriend in the first place. Now, if whatever happened was under some type of police surveillance, and it is related to some type of undercover operation, then maybe they're not going to say anything until this sting operation's over with, and then you might get an investigation. I mean, I don't know, but I do know that if they put a lot of money and effort into some type of surveillance or whatever, they might not blow it just for one murder. There may be more murders that are going on that they just can't tell you right now. I mean, I don't know. Because I can't see the police acting the way that they did, not with all this evidence, not with all the stuff you're bringing up, because you should not have to be bringing any of this up. That's what they're there for. You know?
Brian, the police screwed up on the very first instance, and that was the 911 domestic call.
Right.
Okay, they did not even realize that Sheena made a 911 phone call herself.
It was also New Year's. So that was the day before, wasn't it?
The 911 phone call that was made by the neighbors next door in the hotel room was on New Year's Eve, and that's why the police showed up at about 1:50 in the morning.
Right. It was also New Year's, though.
They visited her for 20 minutes to a half hour.
But they're suspecting everybody. Right, but being New Year's, but so what I'm saying is being New Year's, they might just assume that, everybody's partying. They might have been out on other calls. I mean, I don't know. But that might play into maybe why they didn't investigate this like they should. But it's like you said, it's one thing to screw up. Okay, it's one thing to make a mistake. But if you're, if you have some power, you need to, say, okay, we made a mistake, and then, if you can't handle this, say, hey, contact the FBI. Or can you give us a hand if you're not able to do it?
Brian, when you wrote in your drawing. Out of jurisdiction, it makes me curious because I called Internal Affairs, and when I reached Internal Affairs, it was for the Manatee County Sheriffs.
Right. There's no internal.
They're the ones that processed the crime scene, but that was three hours later. The police department that's actually handling the case and didn't hand it over is the Bradenton Beach Police with 11 police officers. They don't have the capability to handle a crime scene. Oh, that's Sheena's babies. They hear something. It's okay, Oz. It's okay. I'm sorry, I just lost track. Let me think. Okay. Picture yourself, Brian. You're the police department, and you know that your men get a phone call in the middle of the night, and there's a domestic violence dispute. They didn't follow protocol. They didn't leave her a domestic violence brochure. They didn't apprehend the other person involved, like in the state of Florida. Are you still with me?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, so they in all actuality, they didn't follow protocol. I ordered protocol. My attorney got it. I reviewed it. It's kind of lax, but at the same point, there's still some things that they should have followed. Now, here in Hillsborough County in Florida, if you so much as pick up the phone and say, you're mad at your boyfriend and I think he's going to hit me, they're going to arrest both of you. That's just the way it is. In the state of Florida.
There is an officer, I believe, involved in this case that can't carry a gun. I mean, did you look that up? Because of domestic accusations, not even
yeah, and
okay, go ahead.
He's carrying, but he's not carrying legally.
Okay.
So you look at it from the detective standpoint. Okay. I find out that he's pacing the floor and he's trying to figure out what to do for quite some time in this case, because he says he wants to make sure he handles things correctly, not to me, but through someone that I've spoken with.
Okay.
But he's pacing the floor, and he's trying to the detective is, and he's trying to figure out what to do. The problem he has is that he knows his officers did not handle the domestic dispute appropriately. Now, which is better, a suicide or a homicide? Well, with a suicide, you can say, you know what, even if I did handle it appropriately or I didn't, she's going to do it anyway. But if it's a homicide, they've got a whole lot more shit on their hands. So
that's true. And if you screwed up, what I'm saying is if you screwed up somewhere, you don't want this to go further, because when you open a homicide case, everything's going to be looked at now. And but you would hope that they're bigger than that. If you make a mistake, I mean, everybody screws up. This to me does not seem like this. To me, seems a lot, like you said, a lot bigger than it is. And that said, if it's the police, I wouldn't be feared for your life, because they'll get caught. But if it's organized crime, somebody needs to be protecting you guys and really look into this, because if anything else happens, it's on them.
Well, and Brian, it's a really good question. And when you talk about being in fear, when this first began, I was very much in fear. I had people staying with me. If my husband had to go out of town on business, I had people staying with me. Now it's kind of like, you know what? Come and get me, asshole. Come and get me.
Yeah, but don't think like that, because you die really quick, and it'll be like you only have anything to think about. It's just you're gone, and that won't do anybody any good. I mean, there's already enough pain out there. What I'm saying is that it happens. I mean, especially in Florida, in these areas, there is a lot of drugs going through there, and they could care less if people die. And unfortunately, I personally believe that your daughter was involved in that, and it's a real shame that justice isn't happening around. Maybe it is. Like I said, maybe they are working on something a lot bigger, and none of that information can get released yet.
I don't think I believe that, Brian. I don't think I believe it. I think that the police department is way too small, and I hate to keep reflecting.
But you can always ask for help, though. There are tons of agencies that will, okay, they'll help you, but they have to ask for it. Yeah, you say,
no.
Hey,
Brian, nobody will help me. I've gone to the state prosecutor. I've gone to the governor.
Okay, so really, what needs to happen is the media needs to know about that, and in order for the media to do that, we need to keep.
That's something that I had planned on doing.
Okay, we're going to do that.
As I do in a lot of cases, not meaning to interrupt here.
No.
First off, Brian, I don't think that you shared your dream drawings in their entirety. I'd like you to please do that.
Okay.
And then I will talk to you about the media thing and explain to those listening what I've done in some other cases, because that may put some well-needed pressure to get, make some noise to get them doing something. So please share your dream drawing work now.
Okay.
In its entirety.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt, but you've referred to different portions, and for those listening, they may or may not be looking at the case file or understanding. So if you could please share that first, and then I want to address the media issue.
Okay.
And what I'm going to do to try to help with that, and how we can help with that. What we've done in some other cases. So go ahead with your dream drawings, Brian, please.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
Okay. The dream drawings, the first set were done on March 3rd of 2010. Deborah, you didn't send me this request.
I was actually ill, and you got a request from Kelly.
Okay, and that's right.
And so you opened it on yourself, which you
Got it.
rarely open a case on by yourself without me sending it the standard way via email. So kudos to you on that one.
Okay, Kelly, you sent me, I asked you for a picture, you sent me a picture, and I said I wanted a picture and a name, and you sent that. I printed it out, and like I do with anything else, I put it under my pillow. I know that sounds a little weird, but that's what I do, and all I do is record my dreams, and that's it. I'm not psychic, and I tell everybody that this is not psychic abilities. It's what everybody, I believe. Go ahead.
Right there.
Go ahead.
Brian, the fact that you took my daughter's picture that night, Deborah was sick. You don't take a case without Deborah at all whatsoever. It amazes me that you put us right here on the show tonight. That tells me that you have some sort of instinct, because that doesn't happen on your show. I know that. I know there's other people waiting for your time and waiting for your dream drawing, and for somehow Sheena came through for you. It amazes me. I'm shocked. I do know that Sheena has that type of personality where it's like, me first, that's Sheena's personality, but I'm thankful, I'm grateful, but I am amazed that you took this on the way you did.
Well, you're welcome. We just want this, don't thank us yet. Let's get justice done. Yeah, so I did that. I printed that out. The first dream drawing says, and let me scan down. I'm just reading this right off the case file. Book of matches from downtown. It was under the bed. It was taken when police arrived. Drug caused heart to stop. Now, that's why I asked you a lot of questions. I was doing a little research. So there's a lot of things that can stop the heart. But one of them is an interaction between any type of date rape drugs and possibly antidepressants or anti-anxiety drugs. Now, and I'd ask you what her body weight was, and if she was taking any type of drugs. Apparently she wasn't, and that would mean her tolerance is really, really low. And she hadn't. You said she did eat. She only weighs 110 pounds, and she's not using drugs. So a lot of things could stop her heart, but I'm not exactly sure if that caused her death or not. I definitely don't think this was suicide, though. It says drug caused heart to stop, and the bottom right-hand side is that little death symbol. One thing that I have learned from all the dreams that I do, I go nuts with death. I mean, for me, it's an absolute wonderful feeling. I can't, really, there's few words to put into it, but it's not bad like we all think. But I do recognize that symbol and the feeling, and that's what I usually write on, which is on the bottom. Not something we all knew at the time. The next one is a drawing of a gentleman, and this person is not the boyfriend. It says, there's a description here too. It says not her boyfriend, tall. I believe Gail said somebody was tall as well. Mid-20s. I'm not sure what Gail said about that. Ears point. He's got pointy ears. Strong built. Part of gang task force. And that's why I keep asking this. They were not in jurisdiction. There's a drawing of this gentleman. He is bald. And you can't miss this guy. He's bald. He's got pointy ears. And he has some type of, Deborah, what do you call that? Little type of beard on the bottom?
The little goatee.
Goatee. It says strong build, pointy ears. And this guy comes up again in the redo, so I'll get to that in a second. The next one says stakeout was here, the number 99. This is some type of building. To me, it looks like some type of garage. I'm not exactly sure what that was, but the number 99 showed up, and it does show up again. The next dream drawing says TR. The initial, they could be initials TR. And I'm not sure. He was not supposed to be there. He is an informant that's still undercover. They have lost track of him, and then the number 99 again. When I say lost track of him, maybe this was some guy that was supposed to show up at some location or whatever, but didn't make it. And if that were the case, then this was some type of operation. The police may be responsible for his whereabouts, because most people that the police hire are not good people. They're not really being hired. That's why I was asking if somebody had, let's say Joe Blow gets arrested with 2 kilos of cocaine or 1,000 pills of oxycodone or whatever, and you see that in the news, but yet then you don't see later on any type of arrest or any type of public records as far as being incarcerated or anything else, that generally means that he'd cut a deal, and they do cut a lot of deals.
Right.
Because
you're absolutely correct, and that happened, unfortunately, with a young girl named Rachel Hoffman here in Florida.
Right. When you go ahead.
The police made a deal by themselves, and not through the right avenues.
Right. I think that's hard.
A young girl who was going to college got arrested for a little bit of marijuana, and they made her an informant.
And they can get, and that's very dangerous.
And she lost her life. She was murdered.
Okay, if this person was involved, I am guessing this is more. I mean, if somebody's caught with a large amount of whatever, and they're cut a deal, this doesn't come locally. This comes from higher up, and if that person was not supposed to be where they were, that is the police's responsibility. They let this guy free, and a lot of times, if they're able to cover something like that up, they will. And especially if this is interfering with any type of major drug bust or whatever, they would cover something like this up. And I hate to say that, but they would. I mean, I'm sure it happens all the time. But when somebody,
I know.
when these people, when they cut a deal, these are not good people. Okay, just because you cut a deal, you're free. You wear a wire or whatever. So a lot of these are murderers. Okay, these are murderers, and the police need to be watching them 24/7. And maybe this one person got out of whatever, but I'm believing that your daughter and her boyfriend got into some type of fight. She threatened to turn him over to the police, or maybe his organization. He got with this person who was maybe working with supposed to be doing something else, and he did something to her. Now, I don't know what he did to her, Um, even the redo, I don't, but I know it's this one person because he came up again in last night's dream drawings. Just one dream drawing. But I know everything's pointing toward the boyfriend. I am sure that the boyfriend knows all about this, but I don't know if he committed the actual act. Maybe he hung her up there, but I did not see anything as far as hanging bathtub or anything like that in any of this. The next one says inside bars, light, and there's a mirror. And I believe this is inside of a bar. I'm not sure what bar it is, but on the ceiling, or on the ceiling of the bar, there are lights. They could be like the Christmas lights, or maybe even the like tiki lights that they have for tropical things or whatever. And there's circle mirrors there.
I know what it is, Brian.
Okay. Well, please tell me.
Okay. At the hotel, there's a separate entrance to the restaurant. I took a friend of mine there. Her name is Cheryl. She's online now.
Okay.
And when we went in there, there's a mirror.
Okay.
And there were lights above it. We were at the bar. We had a couple drinks because I was going to the pub next door to the hotel to start asking questions as well. And I looked back in several of your dreamings, in your dream drawings going back, and there was one that stood out that I never saw anything posted on, and it said there was a mirror in your dream drawing from back in the beginning of the year of 2009, and it said the mirror, what did it say? Did it say it's not reflective, you can see through it?
Okay, I'm sorry, I don't know.
And it bothered me. So
okay.
when I put that dream way back when, probably back to me, closer to when she died, that came back to me. The bar, the mirror, and the lights came back to me.
Okay, I'll make a note of that one. Gail had said some things that I was interested in too. She said there was two people. She also mentioned the word raid with boyfriend. That may have happened in the past, and that's maybe why somebody's an informant. Even the boyfriend might be an informant. I don't know. But I do think that your daughter was probably trying to do the right thing and turn him in. And of course, if he is involved in a large organization, organized crime, whatever, that is not going to be allowed to happen because her boyfriend would lose his life. And if he's able to... Go ahead.
That would make sense because Sheena thought that she was larger than life, and she thought that she would always do the right thing. She always spoke her mind. Again, anti-drugs. If she found out that the boyfriend was involved in some drugs, she would have used it against him, and she wouldn't have been afraid until it became fear for her life.
Okay. Gail said Derek. I'm guessing this person, the initials didn't match up, but maybe this gentleman is named Derek. I've got a pretty good drawing of this guy. If maybe he's hung around the boyfriend before. I don't know, but if she were to say, I'm going to turn you in, there would be no, in his mind, there would be no other option but to commit murder. In paying somebody to commit murder is still murder. And it says paid in the last one. I don't know exactly what happened, but I do think that the reason why you're not getting cooperation is because I think something bigger is going on than we know about. And hopefully it's not organized crime. Hopefully it is the police themselves working in some type of task force or some type of thing. Because a lot of times these task force they go on for a long time, years. Organized crimes, they go back 5-6 years. That's how long they take to work on cases to build enough evidence. And if something were to happen to blow their entire cover, I don't think that they're going to come forward and say, hey, listen, your daughter didn't commit suicide, we're really sorry, until after the fact, after the arrests are made. At that time, on the 3rd, the next day I posted the dream drawings, I noted that I believe Shanna was murdered by this man, or Sheena was murdered by this man. It's highly probable this person was involved in some type of gang task force, or he was supplying information to this group. After reading information posted on Justice for Sheena, I do believe she did not kill herself. I also tried to research this case on the web and was very disappointed at the lack of media coverage for Sheena. The media organization is not told not to mess with this case. The only reason why they're not reporting on this is probably because the case has not been reopened, and it's still sitting as a suicide, and all they have to go on is your word. Now, they haven't listened to everything you just said tonight. If they do listen to this, I don't have any doubt that this would be a hot topic. And it's sad that it becomes a hot topic because somebody had to die. It's absolutely ridiculous, but that's how our media works. It's drama, and they only want stories with drama. Well, here's their drama. Here, you know what I'm saying? And if they listen to this and they hear all these facts, people will start asking questions, because if there's a murder on the loose, I don't care about that town's economy. Okay, no.
I'm with you, Brian, but I can't help but to think that there's organized crime involved, and we're not going to know about it. Okay, I'm not going to lie. There's people that have checked in to see if he's involved with organized crime. The problem is that it's hidden too well. They don't want me to know about it.
But the boyfriend might not be that part. The boyfriend might just know some things, okay, and might be trying to get in that organization because they make big money. What I'm saying is maybe he hasn't got to the point where people would even suspect he's in it. I mean, first of all, how are you going to know somebody's in organized crime? I mean, it's pretty hard. They just don't post that stuff on the internet. Hey, I'm on organized crime. Come check out my MySpace. I mean,
yeah, right.
They know what they're doing. And sadly enough, it still goes on in this country. In the neighborhood, I mean, if you just look at all the things that go on in the neighborhood, in Florida and stuff like that, that is a place that this stuff does go on all the time. And just because that's a small town doesn't mean it's not right next to a big town. Okay, the next one says, 99 drugs. He knows Sheena's boyfriend, and it says was paid. That was the one from last night, and it's the same person. I'm saying it's the same guy, and that's not the boyfriend. This is the same tall gentleman. He has no hair, pointed ears, and has a muscular build. You can't, as far as I know, you probably can't miss this guy, and I don't know who he is. But I am paying attention to a lot of things that Gail had said too, because Gail is really good at what she does. And if you just look at her track record, you can see that stuff. But the most important thing I think right now in this case is everything that you just said needs to go to the media. That it needs to go. Nancy Grace, Natisha Lance needs to see this. There's a lot of places that need to see that. And that said, Deborah has a lot of ideas, and I want to turn it over to Deborah to see what we're going to do about it. And then after that, we need a fundraising too. You're trying to get a second autopsy performed?
Yeah, unfortunately, Brian, I was misled.
Okay.
When I went to New York, her father and I, we went back up north. We wanted to bring her back to her hometown, and the funeral director had said to me, I was getting a lot of phone calls from my office manager in Florida after the first services. There were many people actually calling to complain about her services into my office. And the complaints were that you need to give Kelly a message. She cannot bury Sheena. She needs a second autopsy. There's something wrong. There is something wrong. And like a lot of people are calling into my office building saying, we got a problem here. The boyfriend was acting like he was hosting a gala. He had his sunglasses on his head, he had a suit on, he was checking out women, and he was texting over my daughter's casket, okay? Now, again, I'm not accusing him. I'm just saying that the behavior...
It's too suspicious. There's no way. There's no way he's not involved. I mean, anybody can see that. There's no possible way he's not involved. And I'm not saying that because of the dreams.
It was just 2 weeks ago. Showering for, myself and I'm sure Sheena's dad, it's not the easiest thing to do in the world to walk into the shower. But you know what? We found it, and I'm going to add this before I go into this story, and I'm glad that we don't have a time limit, because this is a really important story I got to tell you.
Okay.
On New Year's this last year, Sheena's dad and Sheena's stepmom flew into town And David Morris, her dad, Lisa Lane, her stepmom, Oz, my husband, and I went and rented the very exact same hotel room that Sheena died in. I know, that sounds very bizarre. But we wanted to be as close as we could to her because we didn't feel that she did this, and we just wanted to be close to the last place that she was.
Okay.
When we went into her room, we didn't know how we were going to feel. When we got into the room, my mother, Sheena's grandmother, my husband, Oz, and her dad, David, we were happy. We were reminiscing. We were thinking of wonderful things about Sheena. Her stepmom did have a very difficult time with it. I didn't really know how to handle that, but not everybody is prepared to be in that kind of situation. For some people, it's a very odd situation. But for David and I, we wanted nothing more than to be the last place where Sheena was, because we felt love there.
Okay.
And, you know, for all the people that are listening, you call it bizarre, you call it odd, but we knew that when we walked in those doors, there was a happiness that came over David and I. And I know it came through for my mother, and I know it came through for Oz. And Oz and I stayed up until 7 o'clock in the morning, and I sat in that shower till 7 o'clock in the morning. The 1 year later of her anniversary of her death. And there was no way the entire time that we sat there could we get any single little vibration that my daughter died in that shower. She was not in that shower. Physically, she was placed there, but she was not there. And I'm not psychic, but I am a mother. And my daughter was not alive in that shower. And I'm getting a little bit off track. I tend to do that.
No, you're not. You're right on track.
My bottom line is here we all suck it up and spend the night in the hotel room where our daughter, stepdaughter, our grandchild, these many people who are online right now fighting for justice for Sheena, that know that she didn't do this, we're happy in a room. And there's no sadness. There was no real sadness going on here. There's no way anyone's going to tell me that my daughter committed suicide. I would have seen it coming. Her father would have seen it coming. We're all way too close. We're a very unusual family. We're very unusual. David's significant other, Lisa, she cooks in the kitchen with my husband. They do dishes together when they come here and visit. It's all very unusual, but we're all like one big happy family. She didn't have those issues that the other divorced people have.
Okay. You had mentioned something I don't think you mentioned on the show. Was there a pillow found underneath the bed?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Why was that?
For a long time.
Why was there a pillow under the bed?
That's a really good question, Brian. When I go through the crime scene photos, her suitcase is packed tidily. There's a pink leash on the floor for the girl dog, a pair of flip-flops, but in the bed, it only looks like the bed was only slept on one side.
Okay.
When I look at the crime scene photos, there's a pillow stuffed under the bed.
Okay,
It bothered me it wasn't taken into evidence.
It wasn't?
Nothing.
It wasn't? It wasn't taken into evidence? Because
No.
I mean, if you were to smother somebody, there would be definite DNA on there, and, you know, saliva and everything, without a doubt.
Brian, nothing was taken into evidence.
Okay.
They didn't do anything. Taking half of my daughter's belongings were still left in the hotel room. Fortunately, this hotel that she stayed in, they were so wonderful and they were so kind. They secured her belongings after the police left everything behind.
Okay.
And they were so wonderful. And they're not worried about the press. They want to make sure that I retrieve the information the right way.
Well,
there's been nothing helpful.
Here's what's going to happen. This is if they're worried, if the town is worried about tourism, once this gets out, they're going to have to do something, because this big question mark right now that we're raising is going to be worse than anything else, because now people are going to wonder, well, should I send my daughter there? I mean, I don't know if they do spring break there or not, but is this a safe place? And just like in a lot of cases, look at Aruba, look at Praia de Luz, Portugal, where Madeleine McCann went missing.
But you know what they're going to do, Brian? They're going to turn it right back around on me.
Well, no, they can't. No, they can't. Why would anybody do that? But why would
saying I'm a mother in denial.
Okay, but where are the facts that you're in denial? None of this leads me to believe that you're in denial. I mean, you're coming up with hard evidence. Why aren't they looking at this hard evidence? If there was a pillow underneath the bed, let me ask you another question. How many other pillows were on the bed? And sometimes in the fancy places they have more than 2 or 3 pillows. Were there a bunch of pillows on the bed, or just your standard?
There's a bunch of pillows on the bed.
Okay.
And actually we had we paid a medium to go to the hotel room, and he grabbed one particular pillow, and I don't know which one was under the bed, but he grabbed one in particular, and for some reason he was drawn to that. Right,
but those wouldn't be the same pillows. Generally, they're not. They wouldn't be the same pillows. They usually wash the sheets and sometimes wash the pillows. And that means that what I'm saying is that I don't know if it would be the same pillows that later on. But he said he was drawn.
I don't know.
Now I do believe that there was a book of matches underneath the bed. I mean that's what it says. Now as far as what they were, I don't know, but it might definitely be related to the case. A lot of times books of matches have locations on them, or printing or ads or something like that. But looking at this, to me, I mean, even looking at this from a non-dreamer or non-psychic view, you're not in denial. There's no doubt about that. And there's enough evidence here for anybody to look into. I just don't think the right people. Go ahead.
When your drawing came through, my husband, Ozzy, he was not a believer in all stuff. Let's put it that way.
Well, either was I.
Except that,
okay. So
yeah,
my wife believed me before I believed myself. Okay. And I still don't always believe myself.
Skeptical. So he went through his first medium reading. He was absolutely blown away. Went through the second, blown away, because you're all kind of on the same page. But when your drawing came through, which your drawing really confused me, but for my husband, which is not Sheena's biological father, for him, it was a much closer connection for him. He could relate to your drawing much better than I could. And he's like, this seems more likely.
That is the reason why we make all this public, because he can connect more to that. Remember, I'm just recording my dreams. I don't remember these things. So he is probably a better expert at it.
He's the stepfather. He's saying, okay, I want to see the facts. So when he sees your drawing, to him, he says, this makes more sense to me.
Yeah. Well, my facts are all my cases that I have open. I mean, I don't claim to be right on anything, and we just try to get the information out there. And if it can help, it helps. I really wish everybody would do this. But if it can help in any way, and like I said, your husband probably knows this better, because if I don't make this public, I don't know anything. I'm looking at this just like you guys are, but you guys might have some idea of what this may be. I really don't. But as far as psychics and what I do, I think there is a big difference. Really, from what I've seen, is that some psychics, including Gail, are able to pick up on what I only can do in sleep. I think we all can do this in sleep. We all have dreams. And one of the big things for me is I always state that, I don't just go to sleep. I actually meditate on nothing before I go to sleep. I try to clear my mind, not to have dreams about what I have, thought about during the day. And I think we all just tap into something. What Gail and a lot of these mediums that you spoke to are able to do this in a waking state. And if I started hearing voices and seeing things, I'm going to the mental hospital. Okay, that would scare the hell out of me. Seriously, I mean, and I've never experienced that before, so I don't know how that works. But I do know there's definitely something to it. And I've always been skeptical, and I still am. But if I've seen things in my past, there's no possible way that this is something else, or it's just a coincidence. A lot of things maybe, but no. And in this case itself, when I initially do the dream drawings, I don't like to think about anything else. And like I said, when I did this, even though it may not fit what you think, I have to trust it. In just doing another redo on this, I seem to have gotten the same thing. Now, Deborah will tell you that usually the first dream drawing I do is the most accurate, and then everything else has kind of been affected by what people have told me. In a lot of cases, the information that we have, especially out there in the news, is not true. And we've learned this in so many cases that a lot of news reporters, instead of checking on facts, they just report whatever comes out of the person's mouth that's involved in the case, and that's not fact. That's happening right now in a lot of cases. But I just wanted to say that, and I'm glad to have you on. And of course, we'll help anybody, and it's not just you. Every case is important to us. Thank you. If there's any other questions for me, I wanted to turn it over to Deborah. We're going to see what we can do. Okay, so about the autopsy, is there going to be another autopsy performed or not?
We're shooting for that, but it's my understanding that it can cost upwards to $10,000.
Okay.
And right now, I'm in the process of trying to convince a New York medical examiner to take on the case. There's no guarantee, and here's why.
Okay.
They're saying that because the cause of death, I'm sorry, Brian, I got distracted.
Okay,
they're saying that because of the cause of death, the effects to the body can be very much the same.
Okay.
From a suffocation to a hanging, the effects in the body are going to be very similar. And they want all the facts, and I've spent the last couple nights, there was a friend of Sheena's that was posting to her Facebook that caught the attention of Fox News.
Okay.
And everything started slowing me down in the last couple days. I'm trying to hang in with you guys. I haven't gotten back to the pathologist, and I'm just trying to make sure that I have my nuts and bolts, because when you go into these mediums, these medias, they want everything mailed via mail, and I can't write all the details. It's too hard for me. People are trying to put together a documentary to publicize. I feel like I work 20 hours a day on this, and I feel like I'm spinning my wheels because I can't simply sit down and write a paper on the details. Because I feel like, one, I have to be careful about what I say. Am I going to get sued?
No, there we go back to that. Listen, no one is going to sue you, okay? No. I'm sorry, but Deborah, have you seen it? I mean, in this situation like this, I mean, she's worried about what happened to her daughter. I don't see any lawsuits, no matter what you say.
I don't see any lawsuits, no matter what she says either.
I mean,
I can see her fears,
but I don't see any
she
lawsuits.
has not said anything
You
up
have
till
every
now. There's
right.
been nothing on this broadcast that can come back and bite her.
You have every right to say whatever you
feel. She's not outwardly accusing anyone or broadcasting their names.
Yeah, but you have every right to critique and question everything.
Yes, you do.
And I don't think there's anybody I know that would disagree with me on this one. Maybe about everything else, but not on this. Okay, on your website, in the website is Justice for Sheena, and that's the number 4. You have a way that people can donate to the trust. Is this a trust?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. There's 3 different ways on the website that they can donate.
Okay.
They can go PayPal if they're comfortable with that. PayPal is usually a very secure way.
Yes, it is.
It's very easy. It goes right from their account into PayPal, and I transfer that right into the account that Sheena's bank actually has set up for her, and that's a whole nother story I can tell you about.
Okay.
That will just blow your mind when I tell you that story.
Okay. Well, let's do this real fast. Let's let Deborah say what she's going to do as far as the media. We've gone on over an hour and a half, and a lot of times we lose people if it goes on much longer. I want to hear the story though. I definitely want you to come on again too. And I see that the Justice for Sheena PayPal is up, and PayPal is probably the safest way to send money because if you ever want your money back, it's the easiest way to get it back too. Deborah, real quick on this one, what are we doing with the media?
Okay, Brian, as we have done with some other cases, obviously you have so many followers and listeners, Brian. Your site has been up for so long. You send your weekly newsletters out and that type of thing. What I do for cases that really need media attention is I go and I research for all the local media in that area, and I pull the direct contact pages from those websites. So they click the link, it takes it to the exact page. They need to just copy and paste in the request to please cover this story and go on to the next one. I do that for all the local ones for a case and all the national ones too. And we ask your listeners, readers, followers, those that are, reading your website, following our shows, all those things, to do the same thing. Because I make it so easy by pulling the direct contact pages. So they just copy paste the same email into each one of them very quickly, and the links are all there. So I'm going to do for this case what I've done for some others, and go ahead and pull all local pages for local media down in Florida. In a whole surrounding area of where this happened, near to the hometown, all of it, all those places, plus all the national ones. And appeal to our readers to do that. That way, they go ahead and they send the emails. They are also on those contact pages. It also gives the addresses, too, if they would like to send letters via snail mail. It also gives phone numbers and fax machines if they want to do it that way. And we have had great support from readers, followers, listeners in flooding news stations, local and national, with requests to cover certain cases. So that is something that I'll work on doing, pulling all those direct contact links. I would go ahead and post those in the case file at missingpersonforum.com. Now, Sheena's case, her full name is Sheena Lee Morris. She is listed near the bottom of the forum on missingpersonforum.com in the area called Most Wanted Criminals, because even though Sheena sadly is no longer with us, and my condolences once again to you, Kelly, and to the family that's listening, the killer is out there. So we're looking for the killer. And this case has not been given media attention. It's not been given the attention it needs. So that's what it takes. And we have had a lot of people doing it, and it is effective. It is effective. So let's make some noise that way. So I'll work on pulling direct contact pages so it's easy for them to just click that link, copy paste an email, boom, done. Or they can go ahead, fax them, if they want to just print it off, fax them places, or even if they wanted to snail mail them. But I pull those direct contact pages for local and national, for whatever case it is that needs a lot of attention. We've done it for Aji. We've done it for several other cases, too, that we have open. And I am sickened, you know, as were you, and you wrote it on the case file, about the lack of any kind of coverage for Sheena. Because when I Googled her name, I came up with obituaries and, you know, things like for guest book and stuff like that. I did not come up with a whole bunch of stuff to give this case attention. Now, by doing this show, that's going to change, because this show uploads to so many different places that when someone Googles Sheena's name, it's going to pop up this show, and it's going to reach so many people. You know, so that is where to start with making some noise with the media. If the media is getting the emails and the letters, and they're getting contacted by readers and followers, as has been done in the past, that puts pressure on them to write a story, to say, hey, why haven't you checked into this? You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So there's a lot of power there, so I'll pull all those direct contact pages, and we'll get as many people, you know, going ahead and emailing that. Sending those emails and letters and faxes, or making phone calls if they choose to do it that way. So I'm all about making noise and creating the awareness, because this case needs coverage. Now, if the media, if even one media outlet, even a local one, will run a story, that's going to put some heat on local law enforcement.
Not only that,
to
local
do what
media
should have been done to begin with.
It starts off with one media outlet, then they all pick up on it.
Exactly.
This is
and
definitely
one
a case.
local one picks up on it, they all start
This is
running
definitely
a story
case
on it.
for Nancy Grace.
And then if we can get, you know, a national to pick up on it, one national one runs with it, they're all going to run with it. So we're going to try to attack it from that direction. And like I said, I make it very easy by researching the direct contact page for that news organization, so people are easily able to just click the link, copy, paste their info in, boom, send, and they're going to get it. And we have a lot of people that do that, because, Brian, I don't even want to guess at how many followers you have that just read your website for your dreams alone, not to mention the followers for missing people. I'm going to start by putting them in the case file and missingpersonforum.com. If you go there, you're going to have to scroll real far down the page to the most wanted criminal section, and you'll find Sheena Lee Morris killer listed there. That's where I'm going to put it to begin with. We're going to do some further work. We're going to get some blogs up and running here, and those blogs, through some methods that learned about when I first opened Angels Are Missing, to highlight missing child cases, realize that blogs have a great effect. And by using idjits, widgets, that gets it in Google, and it gets the word out to a whole lot more. So that's something that I'm going to help Kelly with also, since she's already got a website up. Plus, you know, I'm sure that when you send out your weekly newsletter, you'd be willing to include, you know, you always let people know the cases that have been opened that week also. This is a new case that's been opened. You know, please visit the website. So we're going to try to increase the traffic to the website and get media to grab on this. If we can at least get one media outlet to grab it, even a local one, it's going to make some noise. The cops don't want that noise. If they get the noise, they got to do their job.
Thank you.
You know?
Can I read
So that's something that I'm going to do, and I told you, Kelly, when we spoke on the phone earlier today for a while, that I'd help you with some various methods that, you know, I have figured out, and we have figured out, Brian and I, in order to make the internet more powerful, you know, to get the message out there.
Okay.
So I'll be working on those, and we'll take it from there. And that's what I have, you know, obviously asking people to send, you know, the website address and everything to everyone they know to get Sheena's story out there, you know, and it just snowballs and it grows. So you know, we're all about making noise. That's what we're gonna do here.
Could I
So
read
that's what I've got to say, and you know, support doesn't end here. So
Go ahead,
we're with
Kelly. I'm
you
sorry. Go
and help
ahead.
all we can.
Kelly?
Can I read a personal note about Sheena?
Yeah, sure.
Sheena was born in Central New York on 8/1/1986, and she died on 1/1/2009. Sheena lived in the New York Central area until she was 18. She moved to Tampa, Florida in January of 2005, where her mother and stepfather resides. She never lost her ties in Central New York while living in Tampa.
Okay, closest major city there in Central New York, please.
Pardon?
Closest major city in Central New York.
Syracuse, Liverpool, Phoenix.
Syracuse. Okay, Syracuse is enough. And then you say Tampa,
Tampa, Florida.
the Tampa area, and then of course Anna Maria Island is where this took place. So anything local to there. So I'll work on pulling those.
Thank you.
And you know, also with the, you know, other stuff. So go ahead. Just thank you for that valuable info. That gives me a good place to start with pulling links. So go ahead, Brian.
Kelly, go ahead and say what you say. Go ahead. Please start over.
Sheena never lost her ties to the Central New York area while she was living in Tampa. She'd always visit her family and her friends often, and more importantly, her father. Sheena's family was always very important to her. Although her mother and father had divorced at a young age, they all remained a close family. She didn't have to experience the separation of her mother and father, and they still remained close while dealing with the loss of their only child. When Sheena moved to Tampa, she very quickly made many, many friends. Although she was only 22, she was quite mature for her age and very, very smart. She made many, many friends. Her personality was vibrant, and she would light up every room that she ever walked into. She was a straightforward young woman, and there was never guessing what was on her mind, because she would just tell you. She had become, let's call it, domesticated. She had taken up cooking and made special personalized cookbooks with the Morris side of the family, gathering recipes from each of them, and made personalized cookbooks with her Morris side of the family, giving them as special gifts for Christmas. She would love to plan with her stepfather, Oz, what they were going to make for the holidays, Sunday fun days, as she would call it. But most of all, Sheena loved her 3 baby Yorkies. The first was Baggio, rest in peace, Baggio, had drowned in her mother's pool. That would be me. That was a very difficult time for us, and he was playing with Sheena's, what she would call her brother, Jake, the golden retriever. She always referred to Jake as her brother. And unfortunately, Baggio had drowned in our pool while playing with Jake. There was a very difficult time for the family. Next, she got Encore. Encore was named after Baggio, who died in the pool. But Baggio had another friend who was Zoe. Zoe was her best friend's roommate that was a friend to Encore. I'm sorry. Bear with me here. I am getting a little emotional at this point.
Okay.
Take your time.
We're going to end it with this anyway, so anything you want to say, just go ahead and say it. It's all yours.
Yep.
Sheena's roommate, Judy, had a Yorkie named Zoe, and when they had decided to move back to Central New York, Judy wanted to be close to her mom, which I'm so grateful for, because that's so important. Judy knew the importance of having a very close mom. Sandy, her mom, will realize the importance of taking Judy and Zoe, which she's not thrilled about having Zoe in the house as well. But if you're in my shoes, take the blessings of Zoe, Sandy, and take them for all it's worth, because having a little terror dog, I used to call Zoe Terror the Terrier, it's better than losing your child. I want to start with a couple things that is very important to Sheena. Sheena was a bright, intelligent young woman with strong political views, and she enjoyed history. She loved all kinds of music, and her music was diverse in every category. Sheena loved every holiday, but birthdays, they were one of her favorites. Not for herself. She loved celebrating everyone else's birthday. This was just a thing for Sheena. Sheena was a very giving person. If someone needed something, they were sure to get it. Her father could tell some stories about a coat that she begged for on Christmas, yet she'd walk out the door and give it to someone else who really, really wanted that pea coat for Christmas. It wasn't about Sheena. It was always about everyone else. While she was a bright, intelligent young woman with strong political views, she had many talents. The first and foremost was socializing, was one of her best. She could dance, she could sing, and most of all, she could write poetry like no one else could ever explain. If you were going to have a toast, Sheena could make up a toast in a split second without thinking twice, like it was a poem that she had written over and over again, but it was never ever rehearsed for Sheena. It would just come to her. If someone needed anything, she was sure that they would get it. And it wasn't about whether or not she could afford it or not. She would do it anyway. She would worry about that later. Money wasn't an issue to her, because to her it was like, I've got a friend's birthday, I'm going to make it happen, and we'll worry about everything else later. While Sheena did enjoy the finer designer fashions, she could also hunt down the best bargains in fashions she could find. God, I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
She could take a white T-shirt, what they call some people call a wife beater, and she would turn it into some designer fashion that was just Sheena's way. She was feisty and full of spunk. You wouldn't want to be in a debate with her for $1 million. Politically, I don't know if this is going to be offensive to anyone, but Sheena was a very strong Republican in the aspect that, well, I can't even speak that for her, and I'm not even going to go down that road. That is what she was, and if anyone has a problem with that, I guess that's just a personal issue.
They don't.
But Sheena was a Republican, and I remember when she called me up the day she went to vote, and she says, Mom, I'm going to throw up because I'm worried. I don't think we're going to win. She was neat like that. She said that day she chewed the inside corner of her mouth out because she's so bad, did not want who to win. And she was here that night, and she broke down into tears when he did win. But all that is regardless. That's all a personal issue. Although Sheena was just 22, she had already had her share of the nightlife and enjoyed being at her own apartment with friends or just hanging out with her family, who lived very, very close. Often she would bring her friends over to the house, to her mom's or stepfather's. She didn't categorize ever any one friend. Everybody was a friend to her. She loved doing things like swimming, listening to music, playing cards, but one of her best were always playing the game Taboo. She was very good at that because she had a sense of reading people's minds. So she could turn this game of Taboo into a game of reading minds. It was the most entertaining thing I had ever seen in my life. She also enjoyed, she liked cooking with her stepdad. She enjoyed the smaller, more local type pub, intimate places, which was kind of odd for a 22-year-old. I guess she had already had her fill of the nightlife. She almost came kind of old in her 22-year-old age. She liked sporting events. She would go to the Tampa Bay Rays games, Tampa Bay Buccaneer football games, and the Tampa Bay Lightning. She would also root for New Orleans Saints, where one of her best friends went to school. This is a great story. She fell in love with the city of New Orleans for its architecture and the spirit of the people after what they had been through after Katrina. She once got into her car in Florida, and she drove to New Orleans, where she heard another hurricane maybe headed that way. And she went to her friend Kelly and brought him back from the hurricane. She just jumped in her car and she drove, and her best buddy, it was their best guy friend. And I remember when I text messaged her, I'm like, oh, this is a great idea, Sheena. Let's go to New Orleans when there's a hurricane on its way. And she said, Mom, it's my best friend, and I'm bringing him back to your house. And that she did. She brought Kelly Holland back to my home, where we had a wonderful time, but more importantly, it just showed Sheena's heart. She brought him back. She drove. She stood in traffic. She sat there in the evacuation route, and nothing stood in her way. Nothing ever stood in Sheena's way of getting whatever she wanted. So she brought Kelly back. Kelly is not, I am Kelly, but this is Kelly Holland. This is Kelly, her friend. It wasn't until the weather passed that she let him move on, but she supported him while he went through to get his college degree. And I believe it's 2 masters that he went through to get Tulane. And he would let me know and send me messages that while he was going through such a tough time, and several times he wanted to call it quits, she encouraged him to get his master's 2 times over. This is a girl who is got so much of a love of life, and she held me up when I got my wisdom teeth out when she was only 7 years old. When I was, I had a neck injury when I was very young, and she was very young. She wouldn't even let the police in the door. She wouldn't let the ambulance come rescue me. She said, no, you're going to have to wait. I'm going to have to cover up my mommy because she's just in a t-shirt. and she accompanied me to the hospital, and she was a big girl. The one problem that I can tell you, Sheena had no fear. She was spunky. And if somebody was going to mess with her, she was going to mess with them right back. And I miss her. And her daddy misses her. Her daddy, and I would like this on the record, her daddy, it doesn't matter if it's below zero. He's in upstate New York where she's laid to rest. And he goes there 3 to 4 times a day. And he sits with her, and he talks with her, and he decorates her resting place with lights, pictures, and precious things from everyone. And because it's all he's got left. It's all David's got left of his one and only child. I don't have her here in Florida to go visit her, but I know that she's with us all. And thank you for letting me share that.
You're very welcome. All right, I'd like to thank everybody for being here tonight. Kelly, Deborah, and Gail St. John, thank you guys very much. Again, the website is Justice for Sheena. It's got number 4, JUSTICE 4, number 4, Sheena, SHENNA.com. Please visit that site. Please promote that site. We need to get this case looked into. Whatever it takes, guys, we need to make this happen. So thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you tomorrow night at 9 o'clock. Good night.